I must also commend very immensely the Cross River State Government Investment Promotion Bureau, headed by the Special Advisor to the Governor, Mr. Gerald Ada, and his team, who have been brilliantly swift and cooperative all through the planning process. The Office of the Chief of Staff, indeed, for the support with all our logistics and programming. I want to thank our sponsors for this year who supported us, Diamond Bank and Shell Nigeria, for your support and investment in this initiative. One of the issues we've always had with the ARCSR has been funding. I would also like to thank our media sponsors, Africa Magic and Ventures Africa, for the media push that we've had so far. ThistlePraxis is truly grateful to our 2013 keynote speaker, Mr. Ashish Thakur. I thank you without gainsaying that I really appreciate you accepting to do this and for coming here. Although we had met in November, I didn't mention it. And for you to agree to spend 2 days out of your extremely busy schedule means a lot and speaks, of course, to the heart of commitment and friendship. I truly appreciate you. Thank you so much. Our lead discussant, Monaim Ben Lehalum. What can I say? Your engagement, your enthusiasm, the hard work you've put together, putting structure to our scorecard for this year was just the extra reminder that I needed, that we are on course for sustainability in Africa. Thank you very immensely. To all our discussants and speakers, what can I say? Many of you I just met when you arrived. Some of you have been friends. But I just want to say thank you so much. Even without personal interaction, you accepted to be on this initiative. I really thank you and do welcome you. Transformational leadership, innovation, sustainability. One factor which every organization or agency striving for innovative supremacy and sustainability cannot afford to ignore is leadership. A charismatic and inspirational leader can transform an organization's reality completely. Transformational leaders inspire followers with a vision that addresses their higher needs and engage followers in the attainment of that vision. Transformational leaders become role models for their followers and make their followers to go beyond their self-interest for the benefits of a larger collective. Thereby, followers cease to be driven by material awards alone, and instead aspire for higher levels of motivation. In addition to being innovative iconoclasts, transformational leaders can also be trusted to do the right thing. Doing the right thing, even when it's not popular, requires courage and visionary leaders to possess the required strength of character. This attracts their followers and makes their followers to emulate them. And this, of course, helps the followers to become innovative. There are two important segments of innovation, namely product innovation and process innovation. It should be noted that innovation should also be pursued radically. However, driving innovation could involve developing strategies and processes that facilitate the transformation of ideas to final product or service. I'd like to point out that I consider innovation as the new prerequisite for competitive advantage. In linking that to transformational leadership, innovation requires an ongoing investment in leadership skills needed to support that innovation. One of the significant trends shaping today's businesses in the global economy is that organizations can no longer rely merely on access to natural resources, technology, or capital. As each of these bases of competitive advantage loses relevance, what differentiates an excellent organization, be it public or private, from a merely efficient firm is the quality of its creativity and innovation, and the ability to get things done in a superlative manner. This trend underscores the recognition that a superior strategy, which is constantly and consistently innovating and giving itself the very best, is a superior source of competitive advantage. And that will be sustainability. Sustainability is a key stratum of organization and technological innovation that yields both bottom line and top line returns and invariably results in lower cost, less inputs, new products, and or services. In the final analysis, the quest for sustainability becomes transformative because sustainability is a mega trend. Sustainability is the new key driver of innovation. Even for the public sector, government agencies, it is no longer and can no longer be seen as a peripheral issue. Public service demands and needs dynamic changes to deliver national good to its citizens. The seeming consciousness we have observed across the continent, the emerging voices for change, the pockets of initiative and game-changing models, the clusters of individuals reaching deep to challenge the status quo, indeed, this consciousness, which we herald as a step in the right direction, must not fizzle out. This is the challenge before us today, not just as we deliberate today and tomorrow, but as a generation in existence at a turning point. Africa is at a turning point. And I know Ashish will be talking about that, but there's something that he said recently somewhere. That we have the Asian tiger, we have all the other animals across the world. But we need to begin to talk about the African lion that is arising. And I think that we are at that point in Africa. We're no longer the dark continent, but can we drive urgent innovations in Africa and across the world? At ThistlePraxis, we are driven by the constant need to innovate. And that's what drives what we do. People ask me why we do the ARCSR. Let me tell you, the ARCSR kills my budget. It keeps putting me in deficit every year. But why do we do it? Because it's the constant idea to innovate and to create sustainability in Africa. And our vision is a sustainable Africa. Can we do it from this little corner in Nigeria, a very tiny company? I think we can, and I believe we can. And that's why we do the ARCSR. We have evaluated our impact, and we have restructured our model from just being a CSR firm into a full-fledged management consulting practice, providing client services through a 6-point portfolio, looking at strategy and performance, assessments and audits, public sector effectiveness, advocacy and thought leadership, research and reporting, and competence development. I am indeed very excited to present to you our own modest attempt at innovation. ThistlePraxis is launching at this event what we call the ThistlePraxis mobile apps, which will be downloadable and are ready for you to download right now on your mobile phones, on your iPads, and all of that. And part of the mobile app is a carbon calculator, which we don't have in this country. So I'm very happy to present that to you, the ThistlePraxis carbon calculator. We're also presenting the Sustainable Conversations Online and our Test Cafe. These are all projects of our Thought Leadership Division. We intend to have much more useful information readily available for African professionals while growing a virtual community of resources on issues and practice of sustainability in Africa. ThistlePraxis, also in strategic partnership with the CSR company Austria, is also pleased to announce that sometime during this year, we will be presenting what we call the CSR labeling, certification and audit services in West Africa. And indeed, this is in response to support consumers in finding and buying products that are carried out or manufactured in sustainable and responsible manner in Africa. At ThistlePraxis, we remain resolute, and we continue to foster a future where Africa leads discussions on sustainability. The countdown has begun for 2014, and I hope that indeed we can again partner with all the partners that we have here today to be able to host the event. Our offer to our host, the Cross River State Government, to test run a model for Sustainable Development Commission still stands. We think it's something that Africa needs, and we think Cross River State can start up a model in your small corner, and let's showcase to the world how you can do sustainability better, even in the public agency. The questions here today are many. How do we drive game-changing strategies within the public and private sectors? What is the role and place of transformational leadership in ensuring innovative creativities in sustainability? Is the business of business still business? How can Africa reverse the tide and uphold transformational leadership at all levels? Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, these are the questions I earnestly hope we will all answer these 2 days. Once again, I want to welcome you to the 2013 edition of Africa CEO Roundtable and Conference on Corporate Sustainability and Responsibility. And I wish you a memorable day and stay in Calabar, Cross River State, Africa's warmest welcome. Thank you very much.
Please distinguish, ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the convener. Indeed. Hello. Indeed, great minds innovate, and great minds that are brilliant think alike. When Ini Onuk mentioned a relationship with His Excellency as one that has seen His Excellency very prudent when it comes to spending, he reminded me very quickly about my relationship with her. And so, Your Excellency, she has been mentored well. She's also my mentor. So there's nothing wrong with being prudent. And when you speak about innovation and transformation and responsibility, the next speaker aptly exemplifies this. He is a leader who has shown a great sense of innovation, ability to innovate, a great sense of responsibility, and a great desire to make his state the most enviable state, indeed, in this part of the world. I am honored to let him know for the first time that I'm half Cross River. My mother is from Cross River. This is the second time that His Excellency is lending his support to this very laudable program. And sir, I just want to say that by supporting and hosting this for a second time, you've automatically qualified for the third term. May I at this point invite our chief host for his message, the Executive Governor of Cross River State, Senator Liel Imoke.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Thank you. Let me begin with an apology. We thought we could start at exactly 9 so I could catch a flight to Abuja because some of us have been summoned for reasons other than corporate social responsibility. But again, I will try and spend as much time with you as I possibly can without missing the meeting. Let me also do what you corporates do. You violate all the rules on protocol. So I'll just recognize my dear wife, the keynote speaker, and Ini. And just say, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I think that's more appropriate for you, the corporates, and it will help me save time because the list could be extremely lengthy and could take up half of my speech. But let me again welcome you to Cross River State, and I hope you did have a good night here in Calabar. This event for us, that is the Africa CEO Roundtable Conference on Corporate Social Responsibility being held here in Calabar, is tremendously important, and that is why we've partnered with ThistlePraxis. So I join them in warmly welcoming all these year's participants to the 2013 edition of this conference. Our beloved city, and indeed Cross River State, is fast establishing itself as the premier destination for business and leisure in Nigeria. And of course, it is undoubtedly the hub for the tourism industry in our country today. We are delighted to welcome you all, welcome the participants, the keynote speaker to this forum, which of course is being hosted here for the second year in a row. Well, I guess we benefit from your not being able to go to Ethiopia. But I also believe that Cross River State is a very good alternative destination to Addis Ababa. So I welcome you back. I'd like to recognize the outing, last year's outing. It was very successful, and I was very honored to also make a presentation and participate in the discussions at last year's event. I believe that a lot of what came out of those events have contributed in many ways, not just to what we do here in Cross River, but we believe that it's already beginning to have an impact on Africa. Last year's event focused on environment, and we, as a state, have a strong commitment to the environment. Again, we're glad to partner with ThistlePraxis in a fruitful and mutually beneficial way. As we look at today's event, we see it as a forum for the exchange of constructive, progressive ideas, insight, and development solutions in a global context, particularly for Africa's economic development. With a vast array of knowledgeable and influential speakers from all over the world, bringing together a formidable collection of discerning and perceptive ideas that would help forge a nurturing environment for sustainable development and socioeconomic growth. This is exactly the sort of conference we need to strongly associate ourselves with here in Cross River State and indeed in this country, Nigeria. My brief in this short opening address was to set the tone for discussions by elucidating my administration's efforts at establishing sustainable development milestones, reaching our targets, attracting investment and private sector growth and participation, as well as presenting opportunities for further collaboration. Rather than follow a prescriptive analysis of our achievements and successes, I'd rather summarily present a narrative of our journey thus far, putting it all in a more appreciable context as opposed to a checklist. Cross River State had already articulated a 15-year economic blueprint as far back as 1997, and I had the privilege of being the author of that economic blueprint. Of course, this was to help direct the development agenda of the state at the time, a vision which looked quite distant and unrealizable. We were seen as a bunch of young boys coming out of Lagos who had no idea of what they were getting into. And to a certain extent, I think they were correct. We had no idea of what we were getting into. But that blueprint has helped to direct our economic development agenda for the state. At the start of this administration, we were determined to continue the implementation of this blueprint through the streamlining and rationalization approach. And we focused on 7 key objectives, and I'll quickly highlight those 7 key objectives, which some people call the Cross River State agenda. The first was to make agriculture more productive and rewarding by encouraging the adoption of agricultural best practice and, of course, ensuring that investment in the sector is strategic and adaptable. The key thing for us was that we needed to change our economy from what I describe as a plantation economy to a processing and manufacturing economy in agriculture. What we had over the last 60 or 70 years was basically a plantation economy with no value addition in that sector and no development of real capacity in any sector of agriculture. So that was our first agenda, as it were. The second was to grow the already thriving tourism industry by enhancing our existing sites, developing new sites, and initiating and strengthening tourism activity in the state. But more importantly, we needed to provide a well-articulated, regulated, and conducive environment for tourism to thrive if we were to become competitive as a tourist destination. The third thing that we put on our 7-point agenda was to expand access to and affordability of qualitative education, to empower youths with the relevant skills to compete in the emerging knowledge economy. One of the things that government in Nigeria has generally focused on is what they call development of infrastructure. While I agree that we need to invest in the development of infrastructure, I think that the greatest investment in infrastructure that any government can make is an investment in that infrastructure called the mind. And that can only be achieved through a focus on education. The next thing that we put on our 7-point agenda was the institutionalization of basic health care. We had to ensure that we can provide primary health care delivery systems that meets the needs of our rural and urban communities. Once we could address primary health care, then we were addressing 70-80% of the health challenges that our people face. Next item was for us to focus on developing a strong private sector-driven economy by growing the purchasing power of cross-riverians and encouraging private enterprise and strengthening the real sector of the state's economy. We had a reputation of being called then a civil service economy. And what that meant was that basically there was just no private sector in existence in Cross River State. We also focused on building, upgrading, and maintaining our infrastructure, particularly transportation, electricity supply, communication, and water supply in urban as well as our rural areas. We thought it was imperative for us to create access to our rural communities, shorten transportation time, and make it possible for our agricultural products to have access to markets. So we've invested considerably in road infrastructure. As of the end of this year, we would have developed 1,000 kilometers of asphalted roads, all in our rural communities across the state. We also thought, and this was very important as well, I'm not listing this in order of priority, it was important to preserve the physical environment through the conservation and promotion of environmentally friendly practices in the development and, of course, in our lifestyles. For us, Cross River State remains one of the 25 biodiversity hotspots in the world. and we had to appreciate and sustain that. The quintessential ethos of this administration is that government should work primarily for those who need government the most. And those who need government the most are not always the elite class. So our focus was on those who would never have access to power but needed government more than those who had access to power. Our vision is to create a prosperous state inhabited by healthy and happy people, living in harmony with their environment in peace and security. We quickly realized that we would need to take a more holistic approach to development, and that perspective is what has driven our social development agenda. However, to achieve our objectives, we had to adopt a specific and distinct credo based on tenets of governance such as a reformist administration agenda and improved governance structures to enable a stronger partnership with international development agencies, with the private sector, and also a politically stable democracy with strong support for growth of not just our local capacity, but also, again, to drive what we believe should be a private sector economy. And of course, we also focused on ensuring that we had a firm legal environment with specific state laws, particularly designed to protect investment. We have also sought to create a stable economic environment by ensuring we have prudent fiscal management and targeted corporate social responsibility partnerships. In real terms, we've had to revamp our key critical structures of governance. The civil service, a much maligned instrument of administration, plagued by indiscipline, corruption, malfeasance, and a grossly inadequate work ethic, has seen a change in fortunes in Cross River State. It has been a very, very difficult and uphill task. A competitive examination process and tangible criteria for promotion has meant that we are now putting our best out in the workforce. They are now in the forefront, and they are delivering on a service mandate. I'll tell you, the first time I insisted on exams for promotion in Cross River State, I had a near riot from my civil servants. That's how bad it was, because promotion was automatic. You did 4 years and you got promoted automatically. It didn't matter whether you were competent or inefficient. You just got promoted automatically. So change, if we must achieve it, must be one that is not always sweet. Sometimes it's quite bitter and quite difficult to swallow. One of the great challenges that we have is getting our own people to understand the need for this change. Again, like I said, training and skills development, as well as an improved work environment, has shown that investment in our people can achieve constructive results. A route to branch restructuring of the local government system, complete with transparency in procurement, accountability in administration, and judiciously applied funding plans, has meant that the rural populace can finally start to reap the rewards of a fully democratized tier of government. One of the great challenges in local government administration was that there was no budgeting process in the local government system. So we had governments running without budgets at the local government level. Now you can imagine what it takes to now force local government councils to prepare budgets, to monitor those budgets and to implement those budgets, and to have the legislative arm of the local government council actually pass those budgets. But we insisted on that, and no local government was funded until they actually achieved those minimum requirements. Change, as I say, can be very difficult, but once the results start to happen, then everyone starts to identify with those results. In response to external financial challenges and in recognition of the need to raise the state's revenue profile, we have deployed ICT systems to automate internal revenue generation processes, as well as engagement of our consultants to strengthen the tax administration system in the state. The other side of this coin is the creation and empowerment of a due process and pricing intelligence unit to ensure accountability and transparency in government procurement processes and of course, in the end, guarantee value for money and check wastage through inflated contracts. Ladies and gentlemen, the one thing that attracts investment and business is a keen recognition of opportunities for robust growth and an environment for such growth to flourish. Through the Cross River State Investment Promotion Bureau's one-stop investment center, we have made it easier and more expedient to attract such crucial investment to the state. As some of you may be aware, 2 days ago, General Electric broke ground for the establishment of a $1 billion manufacturing and trading facility here in the Calabar Free Trade Zone. Another Fortune 500 company, Wilma International, is investing $400 million in 50,000 hectares of palm plantation and processing, which will eventually evolve into a state-of-the-art refinery. Along with other investors such as the Dangote Group, Unisem, Flour Mills, Lion Steel West Africa, Oriental Energy, and SFR, Cross River State's investment portfolio over the last couple of years have been in excess of $2 billion and is likely to rise to about $4 billion in the next 2 years. The consequent job creation and eventual wealth creation cannot be underestimated. Approximately 50,000 jobs are expected to be directly created from this investment portfolio, and even more will occur along the value chain. Our investment in our people has also yielded significant dividends. Our comprehensive reform program for our schools has witnessed a substantial improvement of the state's examination performance as compared with other states. Again, this was one of the great challenges. He was talking about transactional versus transitional governments. One of the great challenges we had was that we came in and Cross River State was classified as an educationally disadvantaged state. And my staff in the Ministry of Education used to wear that cloak on their shoulder so that they could get additional funding from the federal government because they were considered educationally disadvantaged. And, so to them, it was not a problem because there was extra money coming from the federal government for being educationally disadvantaged. For us, it was a big challenge trying to reform education. Cross River State today is in the top percentile for national examination performance and education reform in Nigeria. We've also made great strides with respect to healthcare. To date, Cross River is the only state in the country that has recorded a zero infant and maternal mortality rate in some local governments. Yeah, and I have one of the chairman of Bekwara local government, who's now my commissioner for works, rise, because he was the first, his local government was the first local government to achieve zero infant and maternal mortality when he was chairman of that local government. Sit down, thank you. I think this is a testament to the investments we have made in ensuring that primary healthcare delivery institutions, especially at the rural areas, are fit for purpose and effective agents of medical intervention. Our Project Hope, which provides free health care to pregnant women and children under the age of 5, has been pivotal in achieving this significant milestone. To enable our people fully benefit from the increased investment exposure, we have set up the Microfinance and Enterprise Development Agency, MEDA, to equip our people with the capacity to exploit opportunities which will arise from a more vibrant business environment here in Cross River State. We are also partnering with the Central Bank of Nigeria to establish the Enterprise Development Center here in Calabar. This is targeted at developing critical entrepreneurial skills in our youth. In addition, Project Comfort is a social intervention program aimed at incentivizing people to adopt vocational training, which will make them more employable and, of course, will make them ready to be self-employed and, of course, to be assimilated when necessary into the job market. As we continue to drive our vision of being the leading service-driven economy in Nigeria, we have recently embarked on the construction of a world-class Calabar International Convention Center. I'm sure some of you might have seen the construction site across the lake when you were coming in. This convention center will seat over 2,000 people in its main auditorium, but will also have the capacity to host 5,000 to 6,000 people in one event. Calabar has become that destination for conferences, workshops, and meetings already in this country. The government is investing in this because we believe that it will drive the value chain, it will drive various sectors of our economy, and the impact on our economy would be very significant. This auditorium, it's not on its own. It's coming with a 4-star hotel, which is being developed by a private sector operator, and of course, an international golf course. They say wherever you want business to be done, there should be a golf course around. We also have a specialist medical facility, and of course, a very more high-end private residential development, which would also be located around the golf course. But of course, we're complementing all of this with a special conservation area in keeping with our environmental conservation credentials. The end of this month will also witness the launch of the first indigenous Nigeria satellite TV channel, with all its content being produced at the state-of-the-art, purpose-built Studio Tinapa here in Calabar, just across the road from here. We've also collaborated with the Federal ICT Ministry and other related agencies, and will be launching the Tinapa Knowledge City, an ICT development center, or commissioning as it were, which includes the only software incubation center in the south of Nigeria. The picture, which I hope has been portrayed in this narrative, is one of a meticulously engineered series of plans driven by various programs which consist of projects that have a tangible, concrete, long-term impact on the people of Cross River. For us in Cross River, it is imperative that sustainability and continuity are built into the implementation of all our programs, and that is why we have been able to engender partnerships and collaboration, not just with the donor and development agencies, but also with the federal MDAs and, most importantly, the private sector. As we look to consolidate on our progress thus far, we are acutely aware that we have some ways to go, and we are constantly looking to improve on our efforts. We're not yet there yet. We still have plenty to do. We still have much to invest. Nevertheless, we're emboldened by our successes, and we will be unrelenting in our pursuit of more success as we seek to meaningfully impact on the lives of all Cross Riverians across the state. Again, I welcome you all to Calabar, Cross River State. I thank you for listening, and I do hope that you get a feel and a taste of Africa's warmest welcome. Thank you very much.
Check. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Distinguished guests, I urge you one more time, another round of applause for His Excellency. Thank you. And now I'd like to move on to the next speaker very quickly. I was at a conference for young people in Lagos earlier this year. And the young lady described the next speaker as her hero. She described him as young, handsome, intelligent, and an African. And that used to be my introduction until she said that. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, he's described as a serial entrepreneur who started his first company at the age of 15. He's a founder of Mara Group, which comprises of numerous holding companies that operate in 26 countries. And let me also mention that he is the founder, president, and the CEO of Mara Foundation. He will represent East Africa on the Virgin Galactic mission into space, thereby making him the second African